Welcome. I'm Bernice Ross, the CEO and president of BrokerTipAndRealEstateCoach.com. And I'm so delighted to have my good friend Valerie Torelli with us. She's the owner of Torelli Real Estate. They have been the #1 firm in Costa Mesa for 30 years, and she's been the top producing agent in Costa Mesa for 30 years. And Valerie is one of the people we were talking about this before we jumped on here. This is our 5th downturn. We've survived 4 of these. We're going to talk about how you're surviving number 5 and what you've been doing. Valerie, thank you for being with us today.
My pleasure, Bernice, and hello, everyone. Thank you for listening.
First of all, how did you knew about how serious the coronavirus was going to be a lot sooner than most people. Kind of give us a little bit of background of what got you into this space early in terms of recognizing the problem and starting to take action much earlier than anybody else did.
My son lives in Cremona, Italy, which is absolutely ground zero. It's just right, maybe just a few miles train station away from where patient number 1 was identified. And my daughter-in-law is compromised with a heart issue. And she's very young, and so they went on to lockdown immediately once they were aware of the virus and how it was going. So my son from the front lines they're 3 weeks to 4 weeks ahead of us, and so he was giving me information on this. And I believe in math, and so it wasn't a total paranoia thing, but I started listening and looking and going, what if, and designed some things, some precautions just in case these things happen here. So
now, you've been a member of WPO for a lot of years, and this has really informed how you've conducted your business. Could you share what that is? Absolutely. And then, as just some of the things that you were doing before the COVID-19 pandemic that you were doing, because what you're doing is you're looking back to that experience to deal with what's going on right now. So if you could elaborate on that, that would be great.
Absolutely. We were very fortunate. Well, it's 20 women in my specific group, and every industry is different. So it's very much, there's industries out there like that you can go to as CEOs, and actually every real estate agent is a CEO of their own selves. So it was interesting because I'm dealing with women who have very diversified businesses. And through that, I have made my decisions in the last 10 years, never by looking at it if it was real estate, but looking outside other industries and getting my heartbeat from there and learning to pivot very quickly and fluidly. Also, I was able, it was a blessing to go to Harvard Business School with Linda Applegate, and we did case studies with Jeff Bezos and on Blue Mercury, and learning when these things happen, what do you look at? And it's been very, very helpful to go outside of my industry.
So what kinds of things were you looking at in terms of COVID-19 in particular, based upon your WPO experience?
What that helped me with is you go so far out this way, and it's looking at if you had to design a company like through IBM, they did the IBM think tank type of a thing. So we were there for several days, several times. And what does this look like? If you couldn't deliver mail, how would you get it there? If you couldn't use a lockbox, let's use our genre, how else could you do it? So what's so amazing is that all of these apps are available. I don't even know some of them were around until I had to look at them. But our millennials, they absolutely do. So it's designing around design. They actually call it design thinking. Who's my client? What does it look like? And what do I have to be and do to get here if the business doesn't exist anymore the way that it does? It gets you to think about changes quickly. It helps you also negotiate with people when you're thinking about, they're thinking maybe out here and you're here. It's a study that I've worked on for years, and it's helped me tremendously. And anyone can do it.
Well, give us some examples, because you said you've looked at places like wealth management and travel ads, and you have a little example for us, which I really love because it hits a couple of different notes. You have 4 different target markets that you market to, Val? What are those?
Ad campaigns. We have a senior ad campaign. We have a tenant campaign. We have a landlord campaign, and then we have regular seller campaign that we think that they've been there for a while. And again, all of these things can be identified by title company. In the old days, I did it with microfiche, but today I can just literally push a button and identify who I'm going with. So there's two parts of the question that you asked here. So I'd like to break it down really quickly that we are a service organization. We serve. We serve. And how do I get my message out that I serve? I get it out by marketing. And so truly, I am a marketing company. I am changing the way that I market now, but I never stop marketing. But my message will be different. So everybody gets a different communication. It's respectful, and it gets a better result if I design my message to people that it will resonate a little bit more. So again, with a senior, I can have like an ad of, old people like my age, but without all the dye jobs in the face, that they, that they're sitting there and they're relaxing, and it says, does your home not quite what it used to be? So here's something that I used years ago. Now this is really, really old school. It's 20 years ago, but can you see it pretty easily?
Need to come, yeah. It says bigger isn't always better. And you see this little tiny egg among these very large eggs. And the thing that I loved about this ad, Val, you want to go ahead and put that away from your face now.
Absolutely.
The thing I loved about that ad is that, you've been the top brokerage in Costa Mesa against these companies that have 10 times the number. You have generally 15 to 20 agents in your company.
Right. And they have such a huge budget.
All of them.
Yeah, but they have a huge, huge budget. So my marketing is, I look at National Geographic, I look at like a wealth management company, and what are they saying? One of the biggest things is like, how do you communicate your value proposition without this much? Nobody's going to read it. I have 5 seconds to make an impact with an ad. And so it's heartfelt. I keep coming back to some of the most profound ones with Budweiser, and the Clydesdales pull up into the snow, and you see in the background the World Trade Center, and the horses bow down. There isn't a word that is said, but it gets you. So it's like, don't look at the real estate ads. Go to other industries. Open up a magazine and go, wow, these words resonate with me. And basically you're stealing them. I mean, there's never been an original ad since the guy went out there with the snake oil and he started saying this stuff. That you can take those ideas and use them and market with heart, communicate like you mean it.
And I want to go back to the one that you just showed us, because for seniors right now, or for people who may be losing their jobs right now, bigger isn't always better. They're looking at, as a senior, I want to use the term right sizing instead of downsizing.
Right sizing, correct.
Yeah. And then, but right now, some people will have to downsize because of what's happening with this, depending on how long they're out of work.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to share one thing. Almost all lenders will, in this kind of situation, will do something called forbearance, which means that they can tack on oftentimes up to 12 months of payments onto the end of your loan.
Right.
So that you can use your money to pay for your necessities to live and not have your credit, damaged or anything because of this. So you want to get that in writing. Now, Val, I want to kind of switch the conversation. Sure. So you figured out that, this is something I really needed to deal with. What specific steps did you take? Because you've done a tremendous number of things, and if you could share some, just kind of step by step what you did.
Sure. So about 3.5 weeks ago, I canceled this big, huge event before anyone asked. And then from all of that money that I was going to spend, I sent the money to the hospital in Cremona, where the tragedies have. So that made me feel like I was doing something, because I wanted to give back. And I needed to do that for me, because if you're not in control of something, I knew now I was in control. I didn't go out and buy toilet paper. I had already done something that gave me power. Okay, so I knew that there would be this panicking and all of that kind of stuff. So I did mine immediately, and I did it from a place of strength. Okay. Then I started thinking about who are the most vulnerable, who can we take care of, what would we need to do, with knowing that, like in Alex's area, they have people looking after each other. So I knew how, as all real estate people knew, how to identify the elders in our community. I have a 3,000 farm area. I identified almost 300 people through title that they've been there in the house long enough. We immediately set up a hotline for them, sent out letters knowing they could call, got a hold of the restaurants that could you deliver, those kind of things. Now, I'm not the only one that was doing that. There were so many people that were, but I do have the hotline ready to go. So if they cut down on people being able to pick up things and we can only deliver, we'll try to make that happen, delivering medicines and things like that. So I immediately did that. So all of my staff of 3 immediately went into designing those kind of marketing materials, because they're still marketing materials, right? It says we've been here 30 years. We'll see you through this as well. And that nothing about real estate. Our hotline here for seniors. Please call us if we can help. Again, I'm a marketing company, and so are you. Yeah.
Now you mentioned though you didn't have them calling Torelli Realty. What number? What's the name of the? What is the name of the?
Oh, we called it.
What are they calling?
Neighbors to Neighbors, Costa Mesa. Again, there's so many people doing this kind of a thing. So, but I got a hold of a lot of different people in the neighborhood. Would you volunteer? Do you know where your seniors are? I did that. I did not as good a job as I would like. I only had 3 or 4 days as they started shutting those things down. Yeah.
So, but those groups that you put together are still in existence, right?
The groups?
The groups that, you said you worked to form some groups in the different areas.
Oh, yes, I have their contact information. They know where their seniors are as well. It's just, if I can't get with the phone number that we have says we'll get back to you within the hour. We answer the phone every day between 9 and 5. And if I happen to be out, dropping off something or doing something along those lines, somebody else will pick it up, or I have a number that I can get a hold of.
What kinds of things?
Huge list of volunteers. Huge list. Yeah. Yeah.
What kinds of things have you been dropping off and you're getting calls? What are you seeing?
Toilet paper for one of the nurses, and the front line. My biggest thing would be to keep now as things have shifted, because there's so many people looking after the seniors. The shift will be towards the workers, trying to get paint masks from all of our painters, even though they're not the right kind. But it's looking at things like that. Can you get those things in order now? I called up Kaiser Hospital. I'm trying to look for N95 masks, but I couldn't find them. Again, marketing, but it's marketing with a soul. What are you doing to help? Are you part of the solution? What can you do right now when you're doing nothing? There's so much that you can do. The farmers markets, they need to get their produce. A lot of the restaurants now have turned into places to get grocery. Find those places, get the words out to your farm area.
That's something I haven't heard before. So what's happening is the restaurants are actually allowing, essentially they're continuing to get their shipments and then making them available as grocery orders. I haven't heard about that. That's a fantastic idea.
Isn't that a great idea? Yeah. Now, I didn't think of it, but we heard about it, and it's like hooking that up. Again, my community in Costa Mesa is so amazing and so involved. I'm just one of many that are thinking of it. Again, we're service. How do we service? We market. I'm insulted when I see on Facebook those ads still coming through that I can sell your house. Now's the time to sell. You think you're marketing to the wrong people right now. I don't think anyone's really listening to you. So, Philip Levy wrote a book, and I can't remember the name of it, but he had something in there about what we are. It's ASS, and you're a ASS if you don't do it, which is achieve a goal, satisfy a need, solve a problem. If you always thinking like that, it's design thinking. Here's the issue. How do I create it? It's like thinking left, you're blinking left with your blinker in your car, but you're going to turn right. So whatever you learned about real estate, forget it. Now's not the time to use that language. Use a different language, a kinder, more gentle, imaginative, creative language.
Could you give us some examples of what the kind of things, how the kind of language that you're using? Because you're still, you've had some transactions fall apart, right?
Oh,
I
yeah.
think most people have.
Yes.
How are you navigating through that? And then second question would be, well, back to this languaging question, what kind of languaging are you using?
It would be one, I guess, that absolutely would start with just compassion. You can't think about the money right now. And with respect to everyone that's listening, if you didn't save some money, I don't know what to do. And there will be some attrition in our business, and maybe that's a good thing. And I have to say this: we're dealing with shelter, somebody's home, and I just don't think real estate's a side hustle. I just don't. So hopefully a little bit of money has been saved. But again, the question you need to do: what would I do if money wasn't an issue? Our first responders are doing that. There's in the hospital in Cremona, there's 900 people there, and several of the doctors and entomologists and the nurses have already died. They show up. It's not about the money. At this point, you have to make decisions about what would I do if money wasn't a factor. And if you start from there, you'll find the right answers. You will, and believe me, those people are the ones that it will come back to them. I believe that with all my heart.
Absolutely. That's such an important point, because this is the time people are going to remember who was in it and who was out there helping during the crisis. Right. And that's so important. And especially, I like your idea of being of service right now to the first responders, people who are out, the nurses, the doctors, police, fire people, truckers, anybody that's listening to this is on a major highway, they're, pull some, if you have resources, pull some food together to just, share with the people who are driving, keeping us going. Again, it's just things like that make you stand out, that you're doing it from the right place, which is about being of service. And that I can't, I'm so much in alignment with what you're thinking is on this, Val.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's just.
And again, I'm not the only, truly, I'm not shocked, so happy to see so much of this coming through. I choose to focus on what the good people are doing rather than the toilet paper issues and the hoarding and those kind of things. That comes from a sense of fear. And again, if you can pivot quickly and get outside of our heads, and pivot and say, I'm going to be, part of this. And the book that I'm reading, one of the books I'm reading, Skin in the Game right now by Talib, that wrote The Black Swan. And he talks about pathomata, mathemata, and it means learning through pain. And I truly believe that it sticks with you a lot longer than the pleasure part of learning. And so on the other side of this, and there will be another side of this, what have you learned? Who have you become? What are you doing? And am I part of the solution or part of the problem? And yeah.
Well, that's such a huge takeaway, be part of the solution. And that's not being the fear mongering. And it's like, how can I be of service? Yes. And as you mentioned earlier, there are all these apps. We can continue to do almost all of our business virtually. Mm-hmm. One of the things I've been recommending, we still have people who have to buy and sell, go back to the old investment strategy, drive-by only, subject to interior inspection upon, acceptance of offer.
Absolutely. So, assume you've got a lousy tenant. It's called the coronavirus, and he's not paying rent. And what do you do in the meantime? It's try to find the humor in it, and what can you do to navigate around it? Again, in an imaginative, creative way. And if you start, here's where I am, and here's where I want to be. It's Chris McGough wrote the book in the Primes. Here's the as is, and here's the to be. And what are some of you can spend all your time here, but what does it look like over here? So it's like I'm designing my business, which I don't even know what it's going to look like 3 to 6 months from now. But that's the kind of thing that I want to think about. It's like, what's left standing, and who's going. I have an old-fashioned phone. Can you imagine? And what's it going to look like? And that's the exciting part of this, is what's going to be the difference, and how's it going to work. And I think there'll be a lot less things done in person. I really do believe there's going to be some great things. The part that brings me joy is in Venice right now, and I know so many people have been there. The dolphins are back in Venice and the canals, and so are the swans. So that, I think about that joy. What is that going to look like? I mean, the sky is bluer than I've ever seen California ever, and I take joy and comfort in that. And how do I keep that going? Well, gee, a lot less driving, a lot less this. Yeah, I feel it.
You know, one of the things that you said earlier, I'd kind of like to go back and revisit. You were talking about what you would do if you had, no limit on your money. But I remember when I first started coaching, Thomas Leonard, who was one of the founders of business coaching back in the early 1990s, used to say, how can you get it done without spending any money? And I think we're in that, point in time right now. And the things that you talked about, you talk about what you did with the restaurant. You talk about the delivery, but you did some special things for your brokerage in conjunction with the restaurants to help people out locally.
Right. So we had a couple of different Torelli menus, Torelli specials, that they would, we could get them delivered out, working out the credit cards, trying to figure all of that out. And it was so complicated. It was like, I was figuring, well, if it happened, we would just front the money, and it couldn't cost that much money, or you'd have to take their credit card information over the phone. So it got to be really kind of complicated, but they did agree to do menus like that, and they're there. So it's thinking like that and getting the restaurants onboarded with them. And they switched immediately. Everybody got that, and they were able to solve for that. And again, the restaurants becoming a place of haven to being able to deliver right now is a possibility. And looking at that, so it would be partnering with different industries that you might not normally partner with. We always did anyway, because we do a lot of community type things, so it was easy to reach out to them because we had done things like that in the past. So again, it's thinking like that. Who could you partner with to solve a problem? Right? So if you got a block captain together along your streets to make sure that the elders, seniors, garbage got pulled out. Look how simple that would be, identifying them, and somebody's got the next door neighbor's phone number and letting them know, here's what we're setting up for you. Something as simple as that would be amazing. Yeah.
And it costs nothing. And, and the benefit is huge. You could spend a lot, we spend.
It's just time. It's just spending time and making that connection.
So Val, to kind of wrap up for today, final takeaway for the people who are listening to this.
I say work through the pain. I know that I just hate that. It's you're gonna run a lot faster than the competition if there's fire behind you. And I'd like to have everyone look at it that way. And what are the changes that I need to make today? So, I mean, I have all this, study the scripts. No. Show up, listen with all of your heart, and you learn how to ask the correct kind of the questions. And that's the skill set that I think that has to be developed. And then ask yourself, is real estate really the language that I want to be in? Maybe you're better suited to being like a behind the scenes or in marketing. I think there's a great chance here for people to look at this and say, what do I want to do with my life? And here's the biggest change. I'm starting to drink my wine now, my good wine. I'm drinking it right now. I am, and I also maybe going to go gray and not do the face so much anymore, because you know what? It's not important. I think I'm hoping that everyone's going to look at things differently when this is all done.
Well, we're certainly seeing different values. And Val, thank you. This has been just an amazing interview. Thank you so much. We've been visiting with Valerie Torelli. She's owner of Torelli Realty in Costa Mesa, California. Val, thank you for a fantastic session today.
Bless you all. Take care.